My people, gather close because what I'm about to tell you will make your jaw drop so low you may need somebody to help you lift it back up. Have you ever watched a gist unfold so dramatically that even your heart starts beating like talking drum? That is exactly the type of tension that entered Nollywood when a behind-the-scenes clip of Deza the Great and Sonia Uche suddenly scattered the internet like a windstorm blowing through Lagos traffic. From the moment the clip dropped, everyone's phone began to vibrate like it had malaria. Notifications everywhere. WhatsApp groups were on fire. TikTokers started stitching the video before they even wore their slippers. People were calling their friends shouting, "Have you seen the new Walla?" And trust me, this one was not the kind of minor disagreement you brush aside. No, this was the type that had fans choosing sides like they were picking players for football during secondary school break time. The clip began innocently, at least that's what people thought. The camera panned across the set, crew members were moving around gently, microphones hanging, lights shining, everyone minding their business. But then the sound of raised voices sliced through the air like a sharp blade. The person recording zoomed in, and that was when the bombshell dropped. Deza the Great and Sonia Uche were in a heated disagreement that looked like it could boil water without fire. Nobody expected it. After all, Sonia Uche and Deza the Great have always been seen as calm professionals who rarely get entangled in Walla. They are the type of actors people describe as focused, respectful, cooperative. But that day something snapped. Even crew members froze. One guy holding a boom mic forgot he was walking. The microphone dipped into the scene like it wanted to hear better. At first, their voices were low, like two people trying to settle something quietly. But the tension was thick, thicker than a gingerbread soaked in tea. Sonia stepped forward, Deza stepped forward too, and suddenly the small disagreement transformed into a full-blown argument that could have its own theme song. You could almost hear dramatic background music playing somewhere. And let me tell you, the facial expressions were priceless. Sonia had that look of, "I no go gree for anybody today," while Deza had the expression of a man who had made up his mind not to back down even if the sky fell. If drama was a person, it was standing right between them telling the camera operator, "Zoom in, abeg. Capture everything." While all this was happening, the director was standing a few feet away looking like someone whose life choices had suddenly become questionable. He stared at them, blinked slowly, and seemed to be calculating whether to intervene or pretend he was part of the background so the argument wouldn't drag him inside. Meanwhile, social media had already exploded. Within minutes, hashtags were everywhere. Hashtag Team Deza, hashtag Team Sonia, hashtag Why Dem Dey Fight, hashtag Nollywood No Go Kill Us. Some fans even started adding salt and pepper, inventing their own theories about what caused the disagreement. Some claimed Deza misunderstood a line, others said Sonia didn't like the way a scene was being directed, and some dramatic ones insisted there was hidden beef from 2 years ago that was finally cooking. But back on set, the situation grew even more intense. Sonia threw her hands in the air, pacing like someone whose patience had evaporated completely. Deza, on the other hand, planted his feet firmly like a tree refusing to be uprooted. Every word exchanged carried enough power to shake the studio walls. Some crew members exchanged glances, silently begging the ground to open and swallow them. One makeup artist whispered to another, "If I knew today would be like this, I would have called in sick." Another person quietly pulled out their phone, trying to pretend they were checking messages, but everyone knew they were recording the blockbuster happening right in front of them. Still, the argument escalated. Sonia's voice rose, filled with emotion, as she tried to make her point clear. Deza countered with equal passion. These were not two random actors arguing, these were two powerful personalities, each with their own vision, energy, and pride. And when two strong energies clash, the sparks are inevitable. At one point, Sonia turned away, took a deep breath, then turned back sharply like someone who remembered one more thing she needed to address. Deza's eyebrows shot up in return, and even the camera catching the scene shook a little as if the person filming gasped. The tension spread across the set like smoke. Even the extras, who had nothing to do with the scene, gathered quietly at one corner, pretending to be adjusting costumes but clearly watching. You know Nigerians, no matter how serious something is, we must observe. Then suddenly, the unexpected happened. Sonia stopped talking mid-sentence and began pacing faster, rubbing her hands together as though trying to calm herself down. Deza looked away briefly, shaking his head, frustration written all over him. It was almost heartbreaking because beneath all that drama, you could tell they were both passionate about the work. The director finally stepped forward, raising his hands like a referee in a boxing match. But before he could speak, Sonia pointed at Deza again. Deza pointed back. It was like watching two champions in a verbal wrestling match, each determined to make their side understood. But the more passionate they became, the more invested the internet grew. People paused cooking, paused washing plates, paused sleeping. Screenshots were everywhere, Twitter threads were being born every 3 seconds, and fan pages were conducting polls asking people who they thought was right. Still, deep inside the conflict, something interesting was happening. They both cared, not about ego, but about the authenticity of the scene. Sonia wanted emotional depth, Deza wanted technical precision. Two different angles, same goal, excellence. But unfortunately, when passion isn't aligned, it can clash like cymbals in a noisy orchestra. Finally, after what felt like hours, though the video itself wasn't even long, the argument reached a breaking point. Sonia folded her arms, pressing her lips tightly. Deza exhaled heavily, looking at the floor. The director, sensing an opportunity, stepped in between them, speaking softly, trying to bring calm into the room. Slowly, the environment shifted. Sonia nodded slightly, not at Deza but at the explanation being offered. Deza blinked, processing every word. The energy between them began to cool like hot water left under harmattan breeze. But even that wasn't enough to stop the internet chaos. The clip had already escaped. It had already traveled. It had already ignited 1,000 interpretations. And by evening, everyone had become a self-appointed Nollywood analyst, forming dissertations online about who was right and who was wrong. Meanwhile, on set, something touching happened. Sonia approached Deza, still visibly upset but calmer. Deza responded, his voice softer this time. They spoke quietly, away from the camera that had captured their fire. Their voices weren't raised anymore, their hands weren't flying through the air. Just two professionals trying to find middle ground. The crew, who had been stiff like statues, finally relaxed. One person even sighed so loudly that everyone heard. Another laughed nervously, glad the volcano had stopped erupting. But the best part? Sonia and Deza eventually shook hands. Yes, after the storm, peace returned. They agreed on the direction. They adjusted the scene. And then, like true professionals, they delivered a performance so powerful that even the camera operator whispered, "Wow." However, the internet did not know this final part. The world only saw the heated clip, not the reconciliation. And you know how people are, they prefer fire to peace, war to harmony. But the truth is, the disagreement was simply two great actors fighting for excellence, not enemies trying to tear each other down. Of course, by nightfall, bloggers began writing long articles, fans were dragging each other online, and fanbases were preparing PowerPoint presentations to defend their favorite actor. Meanwhile, Sonia and Deza had moved on, continuing the shoot and even joking a little between takes. But the world didn't know. Not yet. And that's what made the whole incident even more dramatic. So here you are today, hearing the full story the internet didn't bother to mention, a story of passion, misunderstanding, and eventually, professional respect. A story that shows that even the brightest stars can clash, but truly great ones know how to find harmony again. My wonderful viewers, if this gist held your attention the way I know it did, then you already know what to do. Don't just read and walk past like breeze. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this gist with your friends because more fire is coming, more drama is brewing, and trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment of the next episode.